Today I'm going to be telling a very hard story that I haven't told in a very long time. I've wanted to make this video for a while now, and I feel like it's really important to help educate other people who have been through the same thing and try to help them possibly get through it, try to make it the slightest bit easier, which I don't know if that's actually possible, but I'm here to try. This is the story of how I lost my dad when I was 13 years old. The start of this story begins with a separation, and this is the separation of my biological father, my dad, and my mother. And it's just such a blessing in disguise. When kids go through divorce, it's sometimes traumatizing, it confuses the child. Luckily, I thank God every day that this happened to my family, because both of my parents found happiness that they might not have found in each other, and I was lucky enough to have 4 parents who loved me so much. The man that I'm talking about in this story was not my biological father, but he was my dad. He raised me since I was 2 years old with my mom. He was so strong, such a great influence on my brother and I. I will always tell people how great of a man he is, and I wish they could see that for themselves. The difference between my dad being my dad and my dad being my stepdad is that he completely embraced the role of being my brother and I's father. He not only wanted to spend the rest of his life with my mom, but he also wanted to spend the rest of his life with my brother and I too. And that is something very special, and it felt so natural for me that I don't think I realized because I was so young. But looking back on it now and comparing my relationship with my stepfather to other people that I've met, it is crazy how lucky I was. And that's why I say it was a blessing in disguise, their separation, because it gave me the opportunity to feel that love from so many directions. Shortly after my parents separated, my mom fell in love. I truly believe that when one door closes, another one is just opening. And I think it's kind of funny to joke around and say that as soon as the front door closes with my dad behind it, the back door opens, because she actually fell in love with the pool guy. As cliche as that sounds, it happened. Then the love story continued, and my dad proposed, and only 2 weeks before the wedding, he was diagnosed with lymphoma. At this point, my mom had to make probably the biggest decision she's ever made, which was to either stay with him, continue with the wedding, and fight this out, and potentially lose the man that she just fell in love with, the man that she just married. Sorry, it's kind of hard to get the words. Or the other choice was to leave, because she had 2 young children, 2 and 3, who were going to get used to seeing him around, who were going to have to be used to going to the hospital, who were going to have to be used to change. Cancer is pretty traumatic for young kids, with everything, the physical sides and the emotional sides. Sometimes it can change a person completely. Luckily, that's not close to what happened in our situation. But with losing hair, becoming frail, it's all things that could be scary for a child, honestly. That's the best way I could put it. When you think about seeing someone you love in that position, it's scary. It's very scary. And at that age, you can only understand so much. And of course my mom decided to stay by his side because that's the type of woman she is. It's the type of family we were. We were gonna get through it. Good times, bad times, shaved head, head of hair. We were going to get through it with him because he was our dad and he was the love of her life. So the wedding went on. I was the flower girl, my brother was the groomsman. It was beautiful and we were happy. His chemo actually started the Monday after the wedding, so yeah, great honeymoon, right? In the hospital. But they were in love and it was fine. They used to joke about any trip we went on, it could be 10 years later, 5 years later, they would always say, this is our honeymoon we never had. So, I mean, at the end of it, they lucked out because they had about 6 honeymoons, probably more. And the funny thing is, whether our honeymoon be a family trip 10 years later or the honeymoon right after they got married, my brother and I would have been there. And I know that because that's how our family was. That's how he was. He loved all of us. It was literally like we were his children. When you have kids, you don't want to be away from them. You want them to be with you all the time. He wasn't the type of man to say, I love you, but not your kids, or I love you, I want to spend the night with you, but can you leave the kids at home? There was never a babysitter. It was us. It was us four. Strong as heck. Through it all. So I may get the dates a little wrong. The timeline is obviously fuzzy for me. I was young. I'm just going off of things that I remember, things that I've asked my mom about, and she is even unsure. It's honestly mostly a blur. All the different hospital visits, all the different chemo transplants, everything. It's been a long time. It's been a long time too. So they thought the chemo that he received after the wedding was successful, but 2 years later the cancer was back. So for a few years following, we were all battling the cancer together. He was having his treatments. My brother and I were going to the hospital when we could. My mom was juggling getting us from school and being with him. But he was so strong and so positive. Like, I wish like everyone could meet him. He was so strong that like it never even seemed like he had cancer. And it's the craziest thing to say. He could be bald as a freaking baby, but when you look at him, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't know, because his joy and his happiness all through it was impeccable. It was crazy. He was like, him dying from cancer never seemed like an option. And that's what was probably the hardest part. So in 2008, he was in partial remission. This was great news. This means that they think the cancer's gone, the spot is gone, but it takes 4 years to be fully in remission because that's how likely it is to come back. But we were not gonna let those 4 years go to waste, whether it was coming back or not. And we spent this time making memories that we would have forever. We went camping over and over and over, and eventually we ended up buying our own jet skis, an RV that we used to drive all over and sleep in Walmart parking lots and go to Black Friday. Those were some good times. Some good times. He would do this thing when we were camping or when we were sleeping in a Walmart parking lot. Oh, no. He would do this thing when we were camping at different campgrounds. And, you know, those buses that have, like, some RVs, I guess. And this is where it gets sad because I barely remember. Okay, well, I don't remember where this happened because it doesn't make sense if we were camping, but you know the trucks that have like a picture of a family, like an advertisement on it? He would take black tape, masking tape, duct tape, and he would cut out little mustaches and put it on them. Unibrows, the whole 9 yards. And it was so funny. We went to the fair, we went to Christmas Town, and this picture is actually my dad and I's favorite ride. But it was our ride. Like, every time we went to the fair, every time we went to Kingston Man, anywhere, we would ride that ride together. He doesn't look like he's enjoying it very much in the picture, but it's because the ride had just ended. He loved that ride. We traveled, we celebrated Christmas, we just enjoyed every day together as a happy and healthy family for the first time. And of course my dad kept playing basketball. Towards his last few months of life, he actually got an award for like being an amazing basketball player, you know, being like, he was good at everything. He was really so talented. So when I was 8 years old in 3rd grade, I actually wrote a book. I wrote a book for the Reflections Project at my school. It went very far. I got a medal for it and everything. I'm not sure how far it went. The theme of the Reflections Fair that year was I Can Make a Difference By. And I wrote a book about helping my dad through his fight. At this point he was clear, and I wrote this book about when he wasn't, and being at the hospital and helping him eat his food and helping him do things around the house and helping others learn about cancer, because I was honestly the only kid in my school who was going through that at that point. And throughout the whole thing, I really felt not alone, because I had so many people like being there for me, but I just felt like so different. Like every day I was like praying to God that my daddy wasn't going to die, and no one else really. That's just not a normal thing for an 8-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 6-year-old. So I wrote this book to try to help other children who might feel alone. And I have it here. You can see. Here's the picture of the wedding. I was so happy. Us taking trips. Love, respect, kindness, hope, and being there for each other. This is so sweet. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I'll read the beginning. And when my dad got sick with cancer, I hope to make a difference. I hope to make him feel better. And that's our cute little family, my brother and I and him. And this book just means so much to me. Oh. Here's some pictures of us. Oh, this is actually reminding me of some things I forgot. We made a tree of hope. And this was in our front yard. And we kept it lit for him. Me and my brother brought him a tree to the hospital for Christmas. Looks like I made a little lemonade stand to raise money for cancer. It says, I can make a difference by helping my dad when he was sick. Maybe I can help other kids that might have a mom or dad with cancer. And that's the picture of his little hairs growing back. That happened a few times. And at the end of the book, this is honestly something that has stuck with me for so long. And so at the end of the book, I wrote, life is short, so live, love, laugh. And that means so much to me, because when I hear it, when I say it to myself, when I'm going through something, It's just so true. Life is so short, and you don't really realize that until you watch someone's life till the end. He was sick for the majority of the time I knew him. And that's when your life starts to mean the most, is when you get sick, and that's the saddest thing. Because most of us just take it for granted until then, until we might actually lose it, or lose someone we love. So, just remember, life is short, so live, love, laugh. From the wise words of my 8-year-old self. Everything was going great, and he had almost made it to the 4-year mark. We were so excited. We were counting down the days, and he didn't make it there. In May of 2012, he was diagnosed with leukemia from the treatment and radiation that he received before. And that's something so terrible about cancer that a lot of people don't know, is that sometimes what saves you is also what kills you. And then it all started over again, and I was old enough to understand this time. I understood the severity of his illness, and at this age, it was just so hard to keep hope. I remember thinking back on the time before and just saying, we've been through this, he got through this, like why do I feel so different now? Why am I so scared? And that's something so beautiful about a child and a child's mind and a child's optimism, is that you just don't know. You just don't know, and you can enjoy some of the most terrible situations, and that's what I did when I was younger. And that's why I was so hurt the second time around, is because I just wanted to have hope. I wanted to look at him as the strong man that I had before, and of course I did, because he was only a few years older than he was the time before. He had the same attitude, he was happy, he was strong, he was okay, and I just remember feeling like so scared, like so scared. The thing that I think contributed to that was only 5 months earlier, I had dropped out of my school and I was being homeschooled. I was bullied very badly and I didn't feel safe at the school. So my mom, being my mom, who saves me from everything and is my protector, she didn't make me go back, and I'm so thankful for that, because this was also another blessing in disguise, because that year that I was out of school being homeschooled, I was able to be in the hospital next to my dad. I was able to spend so much more time with him in that last year that I needed so badly, because I was there. I was right next to him. He was my teacher. As I mentioned earlier, he had an amazing sense of humor. His just complete, like, dry sense of humor, like, who does this? Who does this? Only him, I swear. Because he would sit there when the doctors came in or when the nurses came in and pretend he was dead. Really? Really? That's what you're gonna do when you have cancer? And I absolutely loved that about him. That's one quality that I hope I will be able to take with me through everything, even the hardest times, just like he did, is to just never take life too seriously. Because him being sad, him sitting in the hospital bed crying, him being not himself, him letting the cancer take who he was, would have just made it more hard for the people around him. It would have made it harder for himself. But instead, he just lived. He lived that life that he had left to the fullest. He stayed happy. He stayed strong. He put all his faith in God. And God did what he needed to do. God put him where he needed to be. God took care of him. It might not have been how us here on earth wanted it to be, but that's what he needed. That's what God knew was right for him. He spent 10 years on this earth fighting. He deserved some peace. We had such an awesome support system. My mom actually documented most of his journey on Facebook, and he had so many people supporting him and praying for him, and our friends and family were all behind us. They would cook us meals, they would send stuff to the hospital to make it easier on him and my mom. There are some good people out there, and even if you feel like you're the only one going through it, maybe you are. Maybe you don't know anyone who has a dad with cancer or who has a husband who has cancer. But people are always there to support. They don't have to have been through your situation to understand. And while we were in the hospital, we did so many fun things, like pillow fights. So when we finally got the chance to leave the hospital for a little bit, we did what we do best, and we made some more memories and had a lot more fun. We went to Dick's, did a little photo shoot. We went to a wedding of our relatives. We went paintball shooting, paintball guns with my brother, but then he had to go back. To this day, I am still so thankful for the friends that I had while I was going through this. I had friends that would come to the hospital with me, friends that knew my dad like he was a dad of their own. So many friends that just tried their best to understand at such a young age, but they never left my side. Throughout his treatments and his fight, he never stopped working, cracking jokes, or smiling. For some time, at one point, he was home for a while. I mean, a while could have been a week or maybe a month, I don't know. But he was at home, and I remember in the middle of the night, my mom was crying, and the ambulances were there to take him because he had gotten very sick during the night. At this point is when I started to really figure it out that things weren't as good as I thought they were. He was becoming so frail and tiny, and it was scary to even touch him for me. And that's so sad because he's my dad and I love him and I want to be with him at these times more than ever, but he just was so small and frail, and I felt like if I touched him, he would break. Honestly, that's how sick he started looking, and I think I really realized that like things are not getting better. But yet again, he stayed strong and he kept faith. He was praying, we were all praying, everyone was praying, everyone on her Facebook, all of my friends, our family, everyone was praying for him. And God must have interpreted our prayers a little differently, because when we were asking for him to do what's best for him and to make him better, I think that God knew exactly where he needed to be. And I think when we asked for him to do what is best for him, that's what he did. On January 24th, 2013, my brother and I went to say goodbye. This was probably the hardest day of my life. It was so hard to walk out of that hospital room knowing that I would never see him again. I remember just wanting to run back in there. We were already out of the room. And we went to the nurse's station and they gave us their card and said to call them if we had any questions. And that they'd always be there for us because we had bonded so well. Even to the point where we were in the car driving away from the hospital, I just wanted my mom to call me and tell us to come back. tell us that he was fine, that it was just a joke, another joke or something. I wanted an excuse to go back. I wanted to like forget something there. I wanted him to ask for us to come back, but he couldn't even speak. I remember he looked at my brother and he just tried so hard to get it out. And we heard it. We understood what he said. We understood what he meant, but it took everything in him to get it out. He mumbled, "Take care of your mom and your sister. For me, please." My brother just cried. He said he would. And I feel like once my dad heard those words, he felt okay with letting go. But that is the hardest goodbye I will ever have to say. On the morning of January 25th, 2013, I woke up to a call from my mom letting me know that he had taken his last breath and that he was in a better place now and that he was okay. And it didn't even hit me. It didn't hit me for a long time. I wasn't crying. I don't know how. I was just numb. It just felt like it wasn't real. And still today, 5 years later, it doesn't feel real. How has it been 5 years? Like, how am I okay after losing the most important man in my life? How am I okay? I'm not saying that I am better than the day I was that I found out that my dad died. It still hurts so bad, but I am okay. And he is out of pain. And that is what I told myself every day following that morning, is that he isn't in a hospital bed faking a smile, trying to laugh, trying to find light in the situation. He's happy, and he's watching me every day. Everything I do, every achievement I've had. It sucks that he wasn't here when I graduated high school, when I finished my first year of college, when I made the dean's list. All those things are things that I would give anything in this world to be able to tell him and to talk to him about. But you can't think like that. Because unlike my mom or my brother, they can't be with me every step of every day. My mom wasn't with me every day of my first year of college, and my dad was. And that's something so beautiful about losing someone, is they're always here now. I don't have to worry about him not being able to make my graduation because he's in the hospital or because he's going through chemo. He's there every day. And he will be there every day for the rest of my life. And he is my angel. And I'm so lucky that I've had so much love in my life. At his funeral, 2 friends and I sang Amazing Grace. And it was beautiful. And I'm never gonna regret that till the day I die. That was something I wanted to do for him, because he always supported my singing. He always supported me in whatever I did, and I knew that he would have loved to hear my voice on that day. It was definitely a roller coaster ride. One day we felt like we had forever, and the next day we were just praying to make it to tomorrow. But we never lived any day like we didn't have one. On some days, I didn't want to move. I couldn't. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to sleep. I didn't want to breathe. None of it seemed fair. That I was living and he wasn't. I just didn't understand. Why him? Why my dad? Why the best man that I've ever known? Why the man that loves my mom? Why the man that makes our family whole? Why is it him? Why did it have to be him? But I realize now that he wanted me to breathe. He wanted me to eat and be strong and healthy. He wanted me to laugh. He wanted me to live. He wanted all of that for me, even though he couldn't have it for himself. From today till forever, I will choose to live, love, and laugh for him. Printed on his grave is the quote, "Just keep swimming." So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I love you, Dad, and I hope I've made you proud.